did want to ask you guys, this movie, this is kind of a similar question that we asked following Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Ricky Flex. Do you view this movie, how big of a win is this movie for the MCU and Kevin Feige? So, Jax, like, we know the box office is an absolute monster, but do you think the MCU should take this as a massive dub?
Yeah, absolutely. I think regardless of how much the storyline can tie in, right? Like you had the TVA factor, but like if you look outside of the TVA and the void, like does it really, like Flix was saying, like does it move this multiverse story forward? Not really. But it's getting people excited again about the MCU as a whole, right? Like you go to see this movie and it's like, oh, we're back. But like, does it really push, like, are we excited now and like thinking like, did we get like a cliffhanger or a post-credit scene at the end where it was just like, oh my God, this is coming? Like, no. So it doesn't really push the envelope, but I think it's a win in the fact that it just gets people excited about the MCU and talking about it in a positive way again.
Flex.
I completely agree with that. The noise, the superhero fatigue around this franchise specifically, not just superheroes in general, but around Marvel and the recent failures that they highlight in this movie on numerous occasions. It's just great that they get a nice little win here because of the fans are bought into this franchise in Deadpool. And Marvel can put their name on it. Kevin Feige can put his name on it. Even though, yes, watching this movie, this was a Ryan Reynolds production. Full blown, literally, like freaking had an army of Deadpool in here. Like, and his kids are in this movie. Blake Lively's in this movie. Spoiler review. It's insane how much of a Ryan Reynolds movie this is. This is probably the most Ryan Reynolds movie out of the three Deadpools by far. But going back to the question, yes, Marvel takes this as a win, even though it doesn't have a, it does have a connection to the MCU, Loki, the TVA, but that's pretty much it. This is a Fox movie, a Ryan Reynolds movie.
I agree with you, Ricky. I think this is a win, and I agree with you, Jax. This is a win for Marvel to a degree. Yeah. So Marvel shows that they could still have what's probably going to be $1 billion movie without the name Avengers on it. You could still pull that off, right? You can have an R-rated movie in your universe, and it can operate, and it could do well, right? You can create a massive event that people are drawn to, even without the Avengers. I think also a huge win is that it's an R-rated movie and you're going into Blade. Like, Blade can be successful at the box office once you get your ducks in a row and that script is in order. And the other reason I'm like, it's a win, Marvel has been really judged as of recent for like not really giving creative control. And they have been judged harshly on taking over movies, like, for example, the Marvels, and it's people that are directors that don't feel empowered by Marvel. If you don't think that Kevin Feige gives some leeway to its filmmakers, holy shit, look what he just did for Ryan Reynolds. Like, he let him make egregious jokes against the MCU in his first ever MCU movie. Ryan Reynolds was making these jokes in Deadpool 1 and 2 and like always waiting for this moment, and he absolutely unloaded the clip. They take shots at the Blade movie. They say the MCU's at a low point. Time and time again, right? Finally, we are in the MCU, right? And he's allowed to drop F-bombs. He's allowed to have claws that are going up guys' dicks and other guys' asses, right? He is allowed to be Deadpool inside the MCU. So to a degree, it's a win for the MCU. But this movie belongs, and all its success is Ryan Reynolds. Like, this guy pulled it off. He put his heart and soul into this. He is the guy who brought Deadpool into the MCU. He's the guy who brought Hugh Jackman back. That wasn't necessarily Kevin Feige or the MCU. That credit goes to Ryan Reynolds, right? And for him to be able to make the movie how he wants it, he's the big winner here, guys. Any thoughts, Jax?
No, I agree. I agree with you completely, right? Like, I like the point where you said, like, Marvel doesn't give their creatives like leeway. Like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds unloaded the clip. Like, some of the jokes, like the Blade joke, for example, which I'm sure we'll dive into later. Like, when I heard that, I was like Feige saw this and was like, all right, like, I guess, like, that's insane.
Give him props for that. Feige, yeah. I give so much props for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't want to connect too much to what we're going to talk about, but I think there's also a question mark of like, was it too much autonomy? Or did Marvel get involved? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the problems that we've had with Marvel movies in the past did show here, especially in the third act and villains. So it's like, oh, was this truly like all Ryan Reynolds and the writing here? Or like, was like there's some MCUifying in here with the story, as in like the structure of it? Because again, a lot of those quips, those isms, MCU isms, and those issues were shown in this movie that we've seen in the past in the MCU.
You know what told me it was an MCU movie is when I was watching the opening credits and I was watching Ryan Reynolds dance to Bye Bye, or not Ryan Reynolds dance, but the dance double, right, body double for Deadpool dancing to Bye Bye Bye. I looked at the written by credits and it's Ryan Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Zeb Wells, Sean Levy, 5 different people writing this movie. I'm like, oh, there's the MCU right there. And that's where you saw you kind of like almost could forecast what the problems were going to be in this movie, judging by that. But you also could see from that scene, holy shit, this is why this is going to be entertaining as hell. And I'm going to laugh my balls off for this entire time. And one more thing, like another reason this was a success for Reynolds, because this is an MCU movie that pays tribute to the Fox Marvel universe. It doesn't look ahead, it looks backwards, And by doing that, that's where Kevin Feige, you're always looking for, how is this going to tie into another project in the future? It wasn't concerned with that. Ryan Reynolds is on like the red carpet saying, I was able to make the movie I wanted to make. Big dub for him, not exactly a W for Kevin Feige. And speaking